It's Sarah, and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video, we're going to crochet a turkey coaster. I call this my gobble till you wobble coaster. They're super easy and super fun to make. And you can make them two different ways. You can make a flat coaster, or you can make one that has a little edge in it that kind of helps keep your cup in place. They're both fun coasters and easy to make. And you can use them for lots of different things besides just a coaster. I think it would be a lot of fun to use them for place markers at your Thanksgiving get-together. Put a piece of paper or maybe embroidery a letter for whoever's going to sit at that spot. And then when they go home that day, they can take it with them as a souvenir for a wonderful time they had at your Thanksgiving get-together. The coasters measure about 4 inches, so they're a nice size as well. And you can find that free crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make some of these coasters, you're going to need some yarn, of course, and you can make these out of acrylic. You can make them out of an acrylic and cotton blend, or you can make them out of cotton. The main thing is you need to work with yarn that's a medium worsted weight number 4 yarn. These coasters were made using acrylic beige, this is Red Heart Super Saver, and then I used a variegated for the wings and the face and the feet around. And this is the Karen cotton, and it is a blend acrylic and cotton. You're going to need a little bit of a black to make the little eye, and then a little bit of yellow for the beak, or you could use orange or whatever color you wanted to make that little beak. For today's demonstration, I'm not going to use this one. I decided I wanted to do the wings in this color because it has lots of colors in it, and maybe the feathers would look really pretty with this color. It's called Primary. It's a Red Heart Super Saver, medium number 4, and it really just takes a little bit. I'm going to do the body in the beige like these. I'm going to do the feathers and the variegated edges with this one, and then I'll do the gold and black for the beak and the eye. We'll be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle to weave in ends and to embroidery on the eye. And then, of course, you'll need your scissors. We're going to begin with our beige because we're going to begin in the center of the coaster and work our way around. We'll stitch our slip knot. And then we're going to chain 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to place 9 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. The first 3 chains will count as our first double crochet. Yarn over, go in that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. So now we have 2 double crochets. So we need to stitch 8 more in this same chain. We want a total of 10 double crochets for row 1. Our chain 3 counted as our first, and we're stitching 9 more for a total of 10. And we're stitching all 10 of these in that 4th chain from the hook. All right, let me count, see how many I've got here. Here's my chain 3 that counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now you may notice that you'll have a hole in the center of your circle. We're going to turn that over. We'll grab our needle, thread that onto our needle. I'm going to take our hook out there, and we'll stitch around these center stitches. Now, If you prefer to do the magic circle or magic ring, you can do that here if you would like. I just prefer this method for this particular pattern. Alrighty, so now my end is all tidied up. I can clip off that piece of yarn and I won't have to come back and weave that in. And there's row 1. For row 2, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We're going to place 2 double crochets in each of the 10 double crochets around. We'll place our first one in the same stitch as our chain 3 because our chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. Then we'll place 2 double crochets in each of these 10 double crochets. So that means row 2 will have 20 double crochets. We'll continue this all the way around and join back to our chain 3. I've stitched 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around, so now I have 20 double crochets. We're going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. So we had 10, now we have 20. For row 3, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We're going to stitch a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And so for row 3, we're going to be stitching 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next, and we'll repeat this 2 and 1, working all the way around our circle. So we'll continue working around, stitching 2 double crochets in the next stitch and 1 double crochet in the next. Repeating that, working all the way around. And then we'll join back to our chain 3. So I've completed row 3, stitching 2 double crochets in the next stitch and 1 double crochet in the next, all the way around, and you should have 30 double crochets. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3 again. And so this is where you need to decide if you want to add this little extra ridge on your coaster or you don't want to have it. I'm going to show you what you can do if you want it. If you do not want this extra ridge, like this one that doesn't have it, then you just skip this next row. So if you do want that extra ridge, you're going to need to chain 2. And we're going to be working in the front loops of this row. If you look at the top, you can see that you have a front loop and a back loop. The front loop is the loop that's facing you. The back loop is the loop that's facing away. And we're going to be stitching half double crochets in the front loops. Yarn over, we'll go in the first front loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops. We're stitching 1 half double crochet in each of the front loops, working all the way around this row. And that's what's going to cause that little extra ridge on our coaster. Now, again, if you do not want this little extra ridge, just skip this row. One half double crochet in each double crochet around, stitching in the front loops, and then we'll join back to our chain 2. I've completed this row of stitching 1 half double crochet in each of the front loops around, and you can see how it stands up and makes a nice edge to keep your cup inside. We're going to join to that chain 2 with a slip stitch, and we're going to cut our yarn. We'll go to the next loop of that first half double crochet. Almost said single. Oops. There we go. Got a little splitty on me. We'll tie that off there, and then we'll go ahead and take our needle and weave this in. And this eliminates having to worry about it later. We'll go one way, we'll turn and go back the other way. We're going to take the yarn that we're going to use for our feathers, and I'm using this variegated yarn. And we're going to go in the back loop where we stitched all our front loops. And whether you're doing the one with the edge on it or you're doing the one without it, this row is all stitched in the back loops. We're going to join our yarn in. There we go. Now we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. We're going to chain 3. We're going to place 2 triples in this same stitch. So we'll wrap the yarn around twice, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, yarn over, and go through the third 2. And we're going to do that again in the same stitch. We're going to chain 3. Now we're going to slip stitch in the same stitch. That's our first feather formed. We're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. There we go. And then we'll go to the next stitch and slip stitch and repeat what we did for the feather. Chain 3, 2 triple stitches in the same stitch. There we go. Chain 3 and slip stitch in the same stitch. And now we have 2 of our feathers formed. We'll slip stitch in the next stitch and then slip stitch in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat this 3 more times so that we have 5 feathers on our turkey. Chain 3, 2 triple stitches in the same stitch, oops, that is a little bit of a splitty yarn, isn't it? Chain 3, slip stitch in the next stitch, try that again. There we go. And then slip stitch in the next stitch. Now we have 3 feathers. And we're going to do this 2 more times so that we have a total of 5 feathers. So now I have 5 feathers. I slip stitched in the same stitch and then slip stitched in the next. And now we're going to stitch 8 more slip stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we've got our feathers and the back of our turkey. Now we're going to stitch the turkey's head. And we do the turkey's head exactly like one of these feathers. So we'll slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we'll slip stitch in the next stitch and chain 3. We'll stitch 2 triples in that same stitch. Chain 3, slip stitch in the same stitch, and then slip stitch in the next stitch. So now our turkey has feathers, it has its back, and now it has its head. All right, we'll slip stitch in the next stitch, which I've already done, and then we'll slip stitch in the next 2. 1 and 2. So you're going to have 3 slip stitches right there, just so I didn't confuse you. We did our chain 3, 2 triples, chain 3, and a slip stitch in our same stitch, and then we slip stitched after, and then we stitched 2 more slip stitches. Let's make the turkey's legs. We're going to chain 4. We're going to double crochet in the second chain from the hook. So yarn over, go in that second chain, and we'll stitch a double crochet. Then we'll slip stitch in those last 2 stitches of those 4 chains, and that forms the little leg. All right, let's slip stitch in the next stitch, and then we'll repeat that. 1, 2, 3, 4, double crochet in the second chain, slip stitch in the last 2, 1 and 2. All right, then we'll slip stitch in the next stitch. So here's our turkey's little legs. There's head, back, and the feathers. And the last thing we're going to do is place a slip stitch in these last few stitches to meet back up with our first feather. There we go. Should be 3 stitches. And then we'll join right in that first slip stitch where we started. All right, let me go ahead and cut this. I think that's a very colorful turkey. We'll go ahead and grab this needle. There we go. We'll turn him over and weave these ends in. There we go. I'm just going to put him to the back for now so you can see how our turkey looks. Here's our 5 feathers, the back, the head, the 2 little feet, and the bottom. This one, of course, has that little edge, ridge, where we can put our cup. And now he just needs a beak and an eye. For the beak, we're going to go into the second triple of the head and bring in our color that we're going to use for the beak. And we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Then we're going to stitch a half double crochet in that same stitch. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops. Then we'll stitch a slip stitch in that same stitch and tie off. All right, you'll probably have to shape it a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and weave these ends in now. And then we won't have to worry about it. And then next we're going to just add that little eye on our turkey. So the last thing our little turkey needs is its eye, and I just take about a 10 or 12-inch piece of yarn and my needle, and I go in one of the triple stitches and go back down in the other one. And this is important because if you don't go in the stitch, you'll lose the eye in the opening or the hole in between. And then I just go back up and do that again just to make sure it's going to stay put. So there's our little turkey eye. And on the back side of this one, I go ahead and just tie a little knot since it's just a little stitch. Now, you can add a little dot of fabric glue or fray check that is washable if you want to. I never do, and they always stay in just fine. So here are our little coasters. Here's the one we just made, all ready to be set at your Thanksgiving